So wasa AIT, Angela Michaud, Duaset, and Chukanadi, Ayahat, and Duckdainton, Yeti. And I am Angela Michaud. I'm from the Chukanadi house, and I am the daughter of, my dad is from the Duckdainton house, which is where my grandma is from, and so she's able to come today, which is pretty exciting. So pretty neat. So I am Dr. Angela Michaud. I am the Senior Director for Executive and Tribal Services for South Central Foundation. I've been working there for 10.5 years, and I'm a chiropractor by trade. So I grew up in Ketchikan and went to Oregon State University for my undergraduate, then went to graduate school in Palmer College of Chiropractic. When you say Palmer and Anchorage, everybody's like, there's a chiropractic school in Palmer? I'm like, no, it's in Iowa. So, but that helped me get ready for the winters up in Anchorage, because in Southeast, we never get the cold winters. So I don't think I would have ever survived Anchorage if I wouldn't have lived in Iowa first. And then came up to work up in Anchorage for South Central Foundation. And while at South Central Foundation, I was working in the chiropractic clinic. Did that for 8 years. For those years, I was the clinic director. And Traditional Healing Clinic had their director leave. It was Dr. Ted Mala. He had left, and so they were out without a director for a couple of years, and they needed some help. So I was asked if I could help be the clinic director for both clinics. So that was good, but I was kind of like, hello, I'm in 2 places. And since there wasn't any of that clinical leadership over in traditional healing, I asked that I just move all my time over to traditional healing. The tribal doctors are a hard to fill position because you have a gift that was given to you as you were born, or you have elders that raise you up to teach you traditional values, and as you learn those, then you teach the next generation. Well, we have 7 tribal doctors, 2 that do traditional counseling, and 5 that do traditional physical work. And of those, most of them are elders. And so since they've been working for South Central Foundation, they weren't able to raise up the next generation. And so when I transferred over, it was so I could spend more time developing a traditional healing tribal doctor training program. So as we are now into the 2nd year of our tribal doctor training pilot, we have 3 candidates have made it this far. So we had 14 candidates that had applied. We picked 7, and then 1 we found out she had been a tribal doctor. Basically, she had been trained by her family and just had never been brought to the table. And so we hired her right away, and then the other 3 are younger, so they'll take a lot longer to train. And so we're in the 2nd year of that. So it's a 3-year training program, and they'll start seeing people in this next year under observation, which is pretty exciting. So today we're going to do making a salve. I did some prep work. You guys all have the recipes in front of you. And so part of the prep is to get the oils infused. And so how you do that is you're cooking it for 24 hours at a low heat, either in a crock pot, or I did these in a turkey roaster because I could put a whole bunch of jars and then I didn't have to wash the turkey, the thing, and pre-measured it out for you guys. So those are set with the wormwood and the yarrow. So have any of you guys made salves before? Okay, 2? Okay. What kind of salves have you guys made?
Well, since it's legal in the state, doing things with really high CBD counts and doing it like in a coconut oil so that you've got, salves you can put on your muscles at the end of the day. So,
nice. Awesome. So you use coconut oil as your base?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then?
Wormwood, Devil's Club, and the Dwarf Fireweed.
Okay. Awesome. I just found that dwarf fireweed just last year. I was like, what is this? It's like this tall. And I was like, it looks exactly like fireweed. I didn't know it's called dwarf fireweed, but I called it this must be a baby fireweed. Dwarf fireweed. So that was found on the rocks, right? Mm-hmm. Riverbeds. Okay. Okay, good. Does anybody collect plant material out in the wilderness? Okay, come on in. Okay, and the ones that you said. Okay.
Cold split, all kinds.
Oh, you do the cold split as well? Awesome.
Anything that I can find.
Very good. So the other neat thing about the traditional healing clinic is we have a traditional healing garden, and it's a non-pick garden, so it is a learning garden. So you can actually, if you come to South Central Foundation in Anchorage, you can ask to get a tour, and we can walk you through. And they have little signs next to each of them of what the name of the plant. And what I was told by one of our elders is pick one plant per year that you want to learn about, and then spend as much time with that plant as you can. So watching it, drawing it, looking at it, feeling it. So not necessarily going out and straight picking it, but go out and really just figure out what it is that is special about that plant. And so the first plant I did was Devil's Club, because I'm from Southeast and our family's from Hoona, and we have family members who go out and pick or cut down the Devil's Club salve and make salve out of it and sell it at the cruise ship dock. So, and that one we had known was really good for pain relief. I mean, all these are really good for pain relief, but they're also antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. They have anti-canceroid substances in them. So it helps actually with people who have cancer, and if you make those as like teas. You can do the roots with the Devil's Club, but you can also actually clip down. So as they come up as the stalk, make sure you're wearing leather gloves. You can take like a clippers and clip them. And if you take the stick off, you take just a butter knife, and you can just slide off all of the, and it comes off super easy, all the thorns. And then there's an inner bark, and that cambium, if you take that part off, the green part, and you save that and dry that, then that's what you can use to make the teas. The inner part then is the white, and it's real nice white wood. And I've seen people have started making necklaces out of them, and so they're drilling out a hole through the middle of that. And the stories I've heard with that, with the Devil's Club, is they actually used to hang them over the doors as a to keep evil spirits and keep things out. So kind of like a cleansing thing as well. So both or all three, wormwood, sage, yarrow, and Devil's Club are actually found throughout Alaska, and they're called the guardian plants. So those are our primary plants that are used for healing, which is pretty exciting. So last year we did a plant symposium, and that was actually the theme of that symposium was the yarrow, the wormwood, and the Devil's Club, and we made the salve out of that. This year's one is going to be July 31st and August 1st, and again, it's going to be in Anchorage at South Central Foundation. So, oops. This is what it looks like, and I have pictures up here too. So once we start making the salves, you can come and look at what the plant looks like. But the wormwood sage can grow up. It's about this tall when it's all full and done, and you see them like in big groups of them, and you can see how it has like the pointy, kind of does this jaggedy leaf, and you can see how it alternates, so it rotates as it goes up, and then it has like a little white flower at the top, or like a little ball. So the benefits of the wormwood are that it's a anti-parasitic, antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial. We talked about the tumors. It helps with getting rid of the tumors, and decreases inflammation in the bowels. So you have an irritable bowel, things aren't moving. That if you make it as a tea, that's what it can help with. And then it stimulates digestion, and it helps with rheumatoid arthritis, and is helpful for nervous system diseases and as a bug repellent. So what we're making today, you don't want to eat it, but using it as a topical. And so if you use it as a topical, so any burns, cuts, wounds, any of those type of things, you put it on there, it's going to help it heal, and it's going to help keep out the bacteria from growing, so it would just be like a neosporin type thing. So this is a really good one to take with you, like you're camping or hiking. You just stick it in your bag, and if you want to use it before you get stung by a bug, it should keep them away. And if you get stung, you can put it on it, and it'll keep the sting down. Also, when you go out hiking, if you don't have a salve, if you look for this plant and you roll it together, it's just the juices of it, and you can put it on, and that will help as well. So if you're thinking back, traditionally we didn't have extra virgin olive oil, we didn't have beeswax, we didn't have coconut oil, and so basically it made it as a poultice, and you wrap it up. I was talking to my grandma this morning, and I was like, yeah, you can even use like skunk cabbage, like the big things to like wrap around and hold things into place.
My mom had knee surgery a couple years ago,
Uh-huh.
and one of the tops of the incisions was starting to get infected after it mostly healed up. So she made a poultice out of the wormwood, and she said in 3 days it just completely relaxed and healed up.
Awesome. Yeah, I love hearing those stories, like over and over. Like every time we talk about it, somebody's like, and I had this one time with the yarrow. We had one of our board of directors at the meeting, or at the plant symposium last year, and kind of a skeptic about plant medicine. So we don't call it plant medicine. It's just, plants. And we were talking about the yarrow and how it was used to use for if you had a toothache. And he said that he had a toothache later, and they're like, oh, okay, we'll pull over on the side. Let's see if we can find some yarrow. He said, put it in. He's like, sure enough, my tooth stopped hurting. So that was pretty neat as well. Just these really quick things, and you don't have to save it in a medicine cabinet. You just go out when you need it. And that's kind of a big takeaway too, is not getting things before you need to. And as you're picking it, they are living plants and have energy. And so as you're picking it, it's not, oh, come on, let's pick it. Let's go real quick. Go through, like I said, spend some time, go ahead and pick the plant, do a blessing, say what you want it to do when it's going to be used. I want to have this be as a healing. I want to that type of energy put into it, loving and caring stuff. So when we do this, we're going to be squeezing it as we strain it. And if you guys just do like a special prayer, blessing, however you want to put positive energy, you could even say I'm putting love and positive energy into it, the medicine will be stronger within that.
Yep, we always do gratitude when we're out hiking. We're always saying thank you.
Yeah. And then also like giving back, so like pulling out of hair, putting it down, this is the giving back. So it's not like we're going and taking without giving back. And that's just a cultural values thing. I mean, that would be from anybody. If somebody gives you something, you give it something else back in return. So contraindications and cautions about wormwood. Again, most of these, other than the allergy stuff, would be if you're ingesting it. So you don't want to take lots of it, ingest it. It'll make you sick. So if it's getting your digestive system moving and you took a lot of it, you're going to have diarrhea really bad. You're going to have all these different things that might cause harm. So just little tiny bits. You don't need a lot. So this is the yarrow. So it's very, very feathery, like really feathery, and it's soft. And it has a little white flower, but sometimes they have like a yellowish flower, and sometimes it's a purplish flower. So if you just look at the tiny, tiny little flowers, this grows about like this tall, and then the flowers just clump up right at the top. So again, the yarrow, it helps with the skin wounds. It's an anticoagulant. So if you are using yarrow as a tea, you wouldn't want to use it before you go into surgery, because you won't stop, your body won't clot. But if you have thicker blood in that, then if you did like a little cup a day, then that would help with clotting. There's also helps with the amenorrhea, a mild sedative for anxiety. Again, if you're using it as medicine, you need to be careful because with different drugs, a lot of people are taking other medicines, so you're not going to want to mix that around. So we're not saying to use any of these for ingesting. This is for the topical part, which is going to help with the wounds and the bug repellent and helping after a bug bite. So same thing like with the poultice. You can put it on it, and then you actually, so you make the poultice, you lay it on it, and then put a hot towel on it, and then you'll get that breathing in there. So during that, if you do have, during the winter, it'd be the dried stuff, so it's not going to work, you can do a tea as well. Again, gastrointestinal benefits, so it's going to get things moving. Don't take too much, it'll make it move real fast. All right. So both of these plants are photosensitive too. So if you're going to go out and you're hiking and we say we put it on, but it's like a bright sunny day, you might get those, it might break out. So you want to kind of put it, like cover it up. Don't want to have it out there and putting it on your face and then have breakouts. So just a little bit at a time and see how your body reacts to it. And so you don't want to be out in the sunshine with it. Again, these ones are for drinking it or using it internally, so you're not going to want to use it if you're pregnant or nursing, and if you have a bleeding disorder because of the anticoagulant, you don't want to be taking it. All right, so we talked a little bit about harvesting. This was one of our trainees, and so where she's clipping it down at the very bottom, and then we'll hang it up to dry. I think it's the next one. And then yarrow, same thing, so cutting it down and then just laying it out. And then if it's like dirty at all, then we rinse it off with the water. Otherwise, just let it hang and dry. When you're harvesting, don't do it next to the roads or highly populated areas or dog parks because they're not going to be as healthy plants. So then you rinse them off before you hang them up. And this is inside the Traditional Healing Clinic in Anchorage. And so we put little strings up and then you just hang it over. And then some of the bigger ones you can tie them together with a little string too and just bend it over. And just takes a couple days to dry it out. But you want to make sure it's real dry before you put it into a jar. We put them in the glass jars so you're not getting the plastic stuff from it. So we put it in the glass jars to save it, and then it's like any other tea. It's really, as long as it doesn't have any air coming to it, it'll stay for a long time. So this is a preparation of the oil if you're using a crock pot. And so you want to keep it on the lowest temperature, like about 120, 140. You don't need to be boiling it. It's not trying to cook it out of it. You're wanting it to basically disperse the essence into the material. This one I put in, we had a turkey roaster, so I had a whole case of these size jars in there, and I had them measured out. You could really put 2 sets, like if you filled it all the way up, it'd be double the recipe to fit in these jars. And then it's 24 hours. And the longer it sits, the stronger the effects are going to be on it. Now these, once we strain them out and have it all the oils out of it, we can actually reuse these again. So I always take them and put them back in the Ziploc bags, and then we can actually reuse them again, at least 2 times, but you could do 2 or 3 times. They're still going to, when you're not smelling it anymore, then they're not good anymore. But just like tea, when you're using the loose leaf tea, you can use it more than 1 time to steep. So this is our preparation. I got a double boiler. There's water in the bottom of this pan already. And we have, it's supposed to be a wooden spoon, and I cannot find it in my suitcase, so it might have fallen out in my car when we were leaving. We have 4 tablespoons of beeswax. We have a cheesecloth and a strainer. and a 4-cup measuring cup. Paper towels, hot pads for once we melt the beeswax, we'll pour the oil that we've strained into it and stir it till it melts again. And then once it's melted, then we'll take it, dump it back in the jar, and then we'll put them into these jars. So, and then we'll have 3 sets because we had up to, if there's gonna be 30 people. We don't use them all, it's fine because I'm gonna be going to villages next week and I need to have prep, but I wanted to make sure we had enough for everybody who was gonna be here. So what was in these jars is a 1/2 cup of dried plant material. So it's actually a 1/4 cup of wormwood and a 1/4 cup of the yarrow. And then, like I said, we've already measured out the beeswax. And then the 2 cups of the extra virgin olive oil. So as we heard other people in the class, is that you can use coconut oil. So then you don't need beeswax. You just put in the coconut oil. And then I've heard from some of the northern tribes, one of our tribal doctors, Stephen Booth, he talked about using the polar bear fat or any bear fat, moose fat that you can use you render that down. And again, when it gets to room temperature, it congeals. So you can use the plant material that way. One really neat thing he's talked about with the bear fat is that it's so similar to our body's structure that when you have open sores. So he talked about a lady who had an open ulcer for months and it wasn't healing. And they put just the bear fat, so no other plant material, just the bear fat on it. And overnight, it already had that first layer of skin started to heal back over it. So pretty neat when you use materials of things are like. So then, so this is now and how we're going to do it. So we're going to melt the beeswax. And so it has to be all the way melted. When we strain out the oil and dump it in, if we dump it really fast, it's going to cool the beeswax really quickly again. So we're going to have to stir it a longer time. So if you stir and then slowly do it, then it won't get hardened so fast. So this is the straining through the cheesecloth. Again, we're going to say a good prayer, intention, happy thoughts. So when you're making these things or when I'm pouring these or when we were putting these. So my daughter Kaylin helped me with this. So she just turned 5. So and she was measuring out the plant material and then dumping in the oil. And so I said, we got childlike happy essence in here. She was so proud of herself. So there's a lot of that proud healing already into these, which is really, really exciting. This is at our plant symposium last year. That's what the picture is from. I'm standing in the way. Oops, this way. And so again, when we're mixing the oils and the beeswax together, and then we'll start to put them in the jars. Now I have the lids for all the jars, but we won't put the lids on until it's completely cool. Otherwise, you're going to get that condensation, and that's going to make it so it goes rancid. So we got to make sure it's completely cooled. So by the end of the class, we can. It should be cooled, but if it's not, you just take it and hold on to the cap for a little bit. And that's just pouring it in containers. We don't need to pour it over the little lip, so just like to this about right here, so we don't want to overfill it. And that's the recipe. Any questions? Yes.
What time of year are you harvesting these 2 plants?
The fall.
Fall.
Yeah, so this is last fall's. And that's why I said we don't use all these because we don't have a full class. We'll use it when we go to McGrath next week because we are out of wormwood. We used up all of our dry material. We thought we got enough. And since it was such a popular thing, we presented at Youth and Elders Conference. So it was pretty popular. So we have gone through our wormwood, but it's before it. You don't want to go when it starts wilting, so it's got to be before. And actually, you can do multiple harvests of it. So as soon as you see that, like how it was in the picture, like that tall and it's bright green, go ahead and cut it down, and you can use that. When harvesting, don't ever take all of what's there. You know, make sure you're leaving some to keep growing so it can seed and kind of blow out and have more so it's sustainable. When we were talking about the Devil's Club, when you look at the Devil's Club, you can see where there's a mother. So there's like going to be a bigger one of the group. So take your time again when you're picking. Take your time to see if there's like a main area. If there's a main area, stay out of that area and just pick the on the sides there. Yeah, yeah. You're not going to want to do that anyway. So just the little ones.
Can you go back to the pictures?
Mhm. All right, so that's the wormwood. Oops. Where'd it go? That's the wormwood. So again, for everybody who just came in, there's you can look for like kind of the jaggedy parts, and it's a long thin, and then it just rotates as it goes up. And then at the top, there'll be when it's starting to get ready to seed, will be the little flowers. But you can still get it before it goes out to seed.
And you're harvesting the leaves or the flowers?
Both, yeah. And even once we've dried it, we even have broke down the sticks because it's all part of the plant. So we use all of it, and it's not just the leaves off of it. I just pull all of it and cook it all down. And so that one's the wormwood. And then that one's the yarrow. So again, if you see like the browning or any of that, don't use those plants because they're already losing and they're not as healthy. And you want the healthiest plants if you're going to be using it to keep health for people. And again, the yarrow has different color flowers. So what you're looking for is this feathery part right here. And again, a big contraindication is these are photosensitive. So everybody who just came in, if you put on these salves and you go out in the sun, you're going to get the blistering. So you don't want to go out in the sun with it. But if you use it and you have it on underneath or around, just kind of keep it covered, but it will deter the bugs. And again, if you take the yarrow or the wormwood and you roll it together and just get kind of juices out of it and put it on you, it'll do the same effect. So if you don't have the stuff for making salve. And we also talked about there's other, you always want to use organic, and you can also use grapeseed oil. This one's the extra virgin olive oil. You can use fat. Someone the other day asked, well, what have we used seal oil? It's like, you're going to smell. So I was like, have fun with that. But then it would be an ointment and not a solid. You wouldn't want to mix like the fats or the oils with the beeswaxes. You're just going to get a weird congealed mess. So pick which one you're going to do. If you're going to do a plant material stuff, then use the beeswax with the like olive oil or grapeseed oil or any of those oils. But choose organic. We use the glass jars. Also, we use the ones that are dark because you don't want the light to get in it, and then if the light gets in it, it's going to start to make it go rancid again. If you don't think you're going to use it for a while, go ahead and put it in the freezer. Nothing's going to happen to the freezer, but it'll make it so it won't go rancid. And you'll be able to tell the smell, like smell it now, and then if it smells weird later, then you've had it too long. So, any other questions? Or what other questions do you have?
You're harvesting that feathery kind
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the flower. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use the whole plant. Yeah.
What would be the shelf life for something like that?
I wouldn't have it. Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't have it more than a year.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's gone before any shelf life has ever hit. But yeah, I have salves that I made, and I put them in like the jelly jars, and I give them to people. And so, like, I made a case of those, and I'm still giving people it because I made so much of it. So it goes a long way. Yeah, and once you start doing it, like with the bowl, there'll be stuff left in there. You guys can just, once you actually, I mean, you'll even have it just when you're squeezing it. It's going to be all over you, and just kind of rub it into your skin. And it goes a long way. So you just need a little bit. So what other questions do you guys have?
So if might have these things? Or what is it good?
So the yarrow, we did run out of yarrow, so we did end up ordering it from Natural Pantry. They had it. I don't know anybody who has the wormwood sage, other than. Yeah, give her a call. Yeah, so I was like, that was our learning experience for this next year. If we're going to do classes, what's been really neat during this whole last couple of years is to see the desire right now for people to have whole health and wellness, and the desire to go out. One of the reasons we don't, somebody asked me earlier, oh, are you selling these? I'm like, no, we don't sell it, but I'm going to give you guys the recipe and teach you the ways to do it, because when you can do that yourself, then you can pass it on to somebody else. And if you can pass it to somebody else, that means somebody else is getting out walking, somebody's getting out bending over, they're moving their hands, getting your fine motor skills. So there's so much into it than the prayer and the blessing. You're putting out that positive energy. That is healing in itself, just going out to get the plants. And then you get the plants, and then you can bring it back. And then the people, and like this, we had how many people, those pictures are these plants that were picked last year. So how many people have put their time and energy into this? And so it builds that community. There's a part of it that builds the community that goes with our cultural values. And again, you share it with one person, and they share it with one person, and they share it with one person. You're getting more of getting back to where our roots are from, so which is pretty exciting. I was going to say, I lost my train of thought. Derailed. So we can go ahead and start. I'm going to turn on this, and we can have, we'll have 10 people come up at a time. And we'll go ahead and fill the jars. I kind of put them in sections, but depends how well we squeeze. Will depend on how many jars we can fill at a time. So we'll just see how many we can do, and make sure that each one of you guys get one to take home. The invites for save the date for the plant symposium are inside your little pamphlets there. My card's in there if you guys have questions, or if you ever want to stop by when you're in Anchorage. And then the little pouch in there is for your dried plants. So if you're going to make a tea, or the other thing you can do, I didn't say that, is you can make those as a sachet for your bath. So you could use these same plants, and remembering it's pain relief, you can draw a hot bath or boil it before your bath and dump that boiling water into your bath, and you can use it for that as well. So if we want to have anybody come on up.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
What is the, thank you so much, Angela.
No problem.
What is the, I guess, like, is it common for a lot of people to know these recipes, especially youth right now?
It's not
How
common.
is that going, and is that part of your efforts?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is part of the efforts. Why we did it at the Youth and Elders, and we had 100 kids in there, which was just amazing. And one of the questions I asked, which I also have a survey at the end, so if you guys would just scan your thing, and my name's Angela Michaud, and put it on there and what you learned from it and how it helps. But I just did a, hey, hands up survey after the end of class. I was like, how many of you guys have ever made a salve before? And like none of them had raised their hand. And then I said, well, how many? And then when we came back, I go, how many of you guys have made a salve before? And they're like, obviously, because they had just made it. And I was like, okay, that's great. I go, how many of you guys could make this salve again? And then they raised their hands, every single person. And then I said, how many of you guys could teach this to somebody else? And they actually all raised their hand again. So that was really, really amazing to me, and that they could go back and teach somebody else how to make the salves. And it isn't, it's not common knowledge, and we're hoping that we're raising the common knowledge. Part of what we're doing right here is actually a CDC grant, and it's traditional practices in Indian country, and so in promoting wellness. And so we're doing the salve making, we're doing kuspak making, we're doing drum making. We'll start to be doing more regalia making, and it has to be people of those, of each of those tribes. So it's specific to the tribe, not doing mass production. But this one, this is your basic salve recipe. So if you take off the the fourth cup, and you put a half cup of any dried plant material. You want to make peppermint so you could grow peppermint this year in your yard, take a half a cup of it, do this exact same thing. You put it on it, it's going to wake you up, it's going to make you feel better, and peppermint has its own healing factors. So you can actually make your own things. With a lot of the new companies that are like, you have like a lot of oil companies, extraction companies that have these oils and peppermint oils, and okay, that's $15, this is $20, this is, and it's so expensive. And so people are, oh, we have to buy this. I was like, you don't have to buy it. You could grow it and you can make it yourself, and it's not going to cost that much. So once you do this, 2 cups of oil, even if it's the extra virgin olive oil and it's $8, the plant material is free, or at no cost. And then the beeswax is, I bought the more expensive one that's all like chipped and everything, but if you get the block, it's less expensive. You just have to grate it with a grater and melt it down. So, and again, when I'm teaching in the villages, I'm like, you guys have fat, so use your fats, and those are going to be healthier, are going to work faster. And so it doesn't have to be at a cost, and people have jars, and so, like I said, your old jelly jars, anything that's a glass jar, if you have spaghetti jars, or spaghetti sauce, like if you go, save your glass jars and just put them in the glass jars. So don't use plastic. Like I said, normally I have a wooden spoon because you're not even supposed to be using any of the metal on the thing, but it's lost in my bag somewhere. So that's the raising up the next generation. And I'm not sure what time we came in, but I said, anybody can do this. I was having my daughter, she's 5, and was putting this together. We went to Tyonek last week, and there was this 2-year-old, and I have a picture of her. I'll have to show you guys. She's kneeling on the table, like right here, kneeling, and she's sitting there, stirring the pot. So involving them and not having it be a secret. As we're having elders and people are leaving this world, it is hard to know the stories. And so, ask the questions. If you have elders around, ask the questions. Did you use any of these things? What things did you use? If you didn't use these, like, what did you do when you were cut? If you didn't have bandages, you didn't have Band-Aids, like, what did you do during those periods of time? So there's just different things that people have done, and the more people you talk to, the more things that you hear, like the yarrow. Okay, I have a toothache, and just chew on it, and it makes it so it's numb. Like, that's great to know. So as we do this, hopefully people will just make it, then it will become general knowledge.
Do you think it's possible to help make those communities or populations healthier over time to utilize these options instead of modern Western medicine?
Yeah, and it's also, like I said, there's the cost aspect that's really hard for the villages is getting medicines in town.
Sure.
And not having them go bad. And this way they are able to do that. So last year when we did the plant symposium, like I was telling you earlier, they had one of the women out there, I went out for a council meeting, and she's like, I gave this to my mom and she hasn't taken any medicine. And I was like, that was in September. This is like February. She hasn't taken any medicine since then because of that salve. I'm like, these are not that big. Mm-hmm. So like just little pieces. Yay. Okay, it's hot enough to melt beeswax. That little amount can help heal, and that person's that much healthier. The example of another person who said with the toothache that they're now healthier, because they didn't have to run into the doctor. You're saving doctor visit time. We're at places that don't even have a doctor, that's, so like I said, for me being a chiropractor, and that my whole life vision is to have a healthy Native community without drugs and surgery, unless it's absolutely necessary. This is my passion for that reason, is that we can help each other grow. And not just for the medicinal part, but for the community part. So just that building a community, sharing story, having people interested, and knowing that there's more out there. I said, before I knew about these plants, when I walked around the dog park, I was like, oh, it's all grass everywhere. And then it come back and I was like, oh my gosh, we got yarrow, we got wormwood, we got berries, we got all these other plants that are all on the coal's foot, like all along the path. And so that's what's amazing, is once you start learning about the plants, you see so much more that's there. So, yeah.
Is there a reason you chose the yarrow and wormwood for, when you said there's like other things you can community?
Yeah.
Is there a particular reason for this one? Is it just
So I didn't have any more Devil's Club, and those are the guardian plants. Okay. So those are the strongest medicines that we have that are found throughout Alaska. And so this is the class I teach throughout Alaska. That's the one that no matter which region you're in, they might be higher or shorter, but that they're there, that people can use it. Mm-hmm. Someone over here had a question?
That was my question.
Oh, okay.
Are these plants found all over the state?
Yes, all over the state, yeah. Which was news to me. I didn't think we had it in Southeast. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen them. And then went back down to Hoon. I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. So just, once you realize that it's there, it's pretty amazing.
What part of the Devil's Club do you harvest, and is it also in the fall?
The Devil's Club is before it goes to berry. And so when it's just the stalk. If it's before that time, so it's actually about right now, like May, June is when you harvest the Devil's Club. Yeah. Yes.
You gotta be careful when you're harvesting Devil Club. You step over here, and one branch over there will come up and hit you.
Yes. Yep. Which is kind of neat about Devil's Club is the the pokey parts. That's what causes you to have pain and inflammation. But it also has the ability in itself to heal that. I was trying to remember who told me. It was somebody in Hoona was telling me that they remember watching. The reason that they knew that Devil's Club had healing properties was because they were watching the bears, and the bears were rubbing their backs up on it. And so they're like, huh, I wonder what it does. So if they had got hurt or anything, that they're using it to scratch their back, but it also has that pain reliever in it, and that then they aren't in pain anymore. So it's just pretty neat. So let's go ahead and have you guys come on up. And this is hot. Don't touch it. So we'll have somebody go ahead and dump this into the...
Dump this?
Mm-hmm. Dump that into here. Yep, that's good.
Do you want all this?
All of it. Yep, all of it can go in. It'll strain it all out. Good. All right, let's see if we get any more. Okay. So we'll go with that. And then I'm going to have each one of you guys do this. So everybody's going to have a chance to squeeze the oil out of the bag. So go ahead and put your intentions into it. And as you do that, go ahead and squeeze it. Okay. Next person.
Amazing. Yeah.
All right. Does somebody want to dump this beeswax in and stir it? That's the next step. Yep. Yep. Then you want to stir? Yeah, it's on. Let's put it in.
The whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I already measured it out. Okay. I want to take a picture.
More of him.
Mm-hmm.
Get some on your
Yep.
They want, I think they're about to go. You just finished.
Oh,
So for the upcoming plant symposium, is it taking the place of the plants this week?
All right, and then we'll just keep on stirring. And then, does somebody else want to pour? Want to see how it works? You guys can see how it kind of, since this is colder, see it starts coagulating. So we got to make sure it's melted, otherwise we won't be able to pour it into the jars. There you go. I think, let's see this. All right. That looks good. I'll go ahead and put this out. So that's, try not to get any water in there. And then if somebody can just dump those into the jars, that's it. So we just go.
Harvest Devil's Club, is there processing that, or do you just use the whole stock?
The cambium, so the inside part. So we take a knife, a butter knife, and scrape off the sharp parts, and then we do take off that green layer. That's cambium. That we dry that part out, and then there's actually an inner bark then, which is just a white bark, and we don't do anything with that.